In the US, after a prominent right-wing activist, Charlie Kirk, was shot while addressing students on a campus in Utah.
Guys, I'm not even kidding when I say this. Joe Rogan just had the most
music, applause, shock in the US after a prominent right-wing activist, Charlie Kirk, was while addressing students on a campus in Utah. Guys, I'm not even kidding when I say this. Joe Rogan just had the most shocking reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination, and it's completely changing everything about how we talk about political violence in America. I know you're probably thinking this is just another podcast reaction, but here's why this moment is 100% different and absolutely game-changing. And honestly, this might be the most powerful moment yet. Because when the news broke live during his show with Charlie Sheen, Rogan went completely silent for the first time ever. And what he said next left everyone speechless. And to be real with you, I'm just as stunned as you are. In this video, I'm going to talk about some latest developments on this case, new picture of the alleged shooter, and finally, Joe Rogan's bombshell views on this assassination. Let's get started. The world watched in shock as news broke on September 10, 2025. Charlie Kirk, one of America's most prominent conservative voices, was dead, shot by a sniper while speaking at Utah Valley University. But what happened next on Joe Rogan's podcast might have changed the conversation forever. It was just another Thursday recording session for the Joe Rogan Experience. Charlie Sheen sat across from Rogan, cameras rolling, when a producer stepped into frame with news that would silence the normally talkative host. This just happened. We just found out that Charlie Kirk got shot. It's awful. The words hung in the air like a punch to the gut. Rogan's face went blank. His hands moved to his head. For a man who built his career on never being speechless, he had no words. Is he dead? That's what was just one of the guys out there just said. Confirmed in the lobby was just I've been looking. I haven't seen anything that said confirmed. When his producer confirmed the worst, something shifted not just in that room but across America. To understand why this moment hit so hard, you need to know who Charlie Kirk was. At just 31 years old, he had built something remarkable. Starting Turning Point USA when he was barely 18, Kirk became the voice of conservative youth in America. He was not your typical political figure. While other activists stayed in Washington offices, Kirk went where the action was. President Trump knew this. Kirk was not just another supporter. He was a trusted ally. He attended the inauguration. He visited the White House regularly. Trump valued Kirk's understanding of what young conservatives wanted and needed to hear. But Kirk also had his critics. Many saw him as divisive. They accused him of promoting conspiracy theories, especially about the 2020 election. Liberal activists on college campuses often protested his events. Some universities tried to ban him entirely. That tension between love and hate between his supporters and critics would become tragically relevant. On September 10, 2025, the American Comeback Tour was supposed to be Kirk's biggest initiative yet, a multi-IDY speaking tour designed to energize conservative students. As the 2026 midterm elections approached, Utah Valley University was stop number one. About 3,000 students gathered in the campus quad that Wednesday afternoon. Kirk sat under a white gazebo, taking questions in his usual style. The atmosphere was typical for his events. Enthusiastic supporters mixed with curious observers and a few hostile protesters. At 12:20 p.m., a student asked about transgender mass shooters. Kirk gave his usual sharp response about the numbers being too high. The student pressed for more details about mass shootings in general. Transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years. Too many. It's 5. Okay. Now 5 is a lot, right? I'm going to give you this credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years, counting or not counting gang violence? Then came the sound that changed. If that had come from the roof of the Losey Center about 130 m away. A perfect sniper position overlooking the entire event. Chaos erupted instantly. Minutes. The entire campus was on lockdown. Police swarmed the area. Helicopters circled overhead. But the shooter was already gone, vanishing into the crowd like a ghost. Now on that Thursday, Rogan became something more. He became the voice of Americans who were watching their country tear itself apart. His description of Krik was powerful because it came from someone who had no political reason to defend him. Rogan admitted he had only met Krik once, ironically at a gun range, but his impression was clear. It's not a violent guy who's talking to people on college campuses. Wasn't even particularly rude. Who's tried to be pretty reasonable with people. Everything I saw seemed reasonable. He's a very intelligent guy. You know, whether you agree with him or don't, and there's a lot of stuff that I didn't agree with him on, that's fine. You're allowed to disagree with people without celebrating the fact they got shot. But you can't disrespect his passion. This was not a partisan defense. This was one human being recognizing the basic humanity of another. Rogan was saying what needed to be said. You can disagree with someone without wanting them dead. Rogan's reaction mattered because it came at a time when political violence was already escalating in America. The university expert who tracks political violence told reporters that the first 6 months of 2025 had seen nearly twice as many politically motivated attacks as the same period in 2024. The assassination attempts on Trump during his 2024 campaign had already shaken the country. The murder of Minnesota's top Democratic legislator and her husband in June had shocked both parties. The attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband in 2022 was still fresh in everyone's memory. Kirk's was not happening in isolation. It was part of a pattern that was getting worse, not better. Rogan understood this immediately. His warning was chilling and prophetic. Well, one of two things is going to happen. Either people are going to realize how, insane this is, and we have to have a conversation about being able to have conversations, right? Or it's going to get a lot worse. That's what's scary. Scary. This could spark off some kind of a real violent conflict. You know, that guy had a lot of fans. Yeah. A lot of people love that guy. Yeah, I know. And if they find out that he got killed for something that they vehemently oppose in the first place, it could send people over the edge. What made Rogan's reaction even more significant was how it contrasted with much of the mainstream media coverage. While major networks focused on Kirk's controversial statements and divided reception, Rogan focused on the human cost. He was particularly disgusted by the MSNBC commentator who suggested there might have been accidental celebration gunfire. The suggestion that anyone would buy such an obvious lie showed how divorced from reality political commentary had become. You can't disrespect his passion. Yeah. Well, what you're supposed to do with a guy like that if you're opposing him is debate him. Have a conversation where your argument is more compelling than his. Sure. That's what people should be celebrating discourse. You know, we used to do that. Do some homework and then bring it to the table. Yeah. That's horrible. This simple statement captured what America had lost. The idea that political differences should be settled through debate and discussion, not violence and assassination. Sheen's presence during this conversation added another layer of meaning. As someone who had lived through decades of Hollywood politics and personal struggles, so why does Rogan's reaction change everything? Because it represents a moment when someone with massive influence chose humanity over politics. Kirk's assassination represents a line being crossed. Political violence had moved from the fringes to the mainstream, from failed attempts to successful execution. The fact that it happened in broad daylight at a university event made it even more chilling. But Rogan's reaction represents something else. The possibility that Americans can still find their way back from this dark place. His call for basic human decency, his refusal to celebrate political violence, his recognition that we all have more in common than what divides us. In a time when political leaders were quick to blame the other side and media figures were spinning the tragedy for their own purposes, Joe Rogan did something simple but revolutionary. He treated the death of Charlie Krik as the loss of a human being, not a political opportunity. And that more than any policy position or campaign speech might be what changes everything. The question now is whether America will listen.